Sean Diddy Combs is currently on trial in New York, facing serious federal charges.
If you go back and read the statutes, they can draw those conclusions and have a credible case. So how are you going to take a person who is a sex worker and take every time they have sex and say it's sex for money? Tory Lanez stabbed, poked up 14 times while he was in the pen.
Worst case scenario, he's got a hot album coming out off of the I've Been Stabbed 14 Times.
I'm just like, damn, Megan, you just can't catch a break.
I mean, one of the songs on his album was It Still Gets Hard. I'm not really surprised that Smokey is a nasty ass freak.
Welcome to yet another episode of the BLC Pod. And for a second straight episode, I got all my people
with
me.
Come on. y'all thought I was going to forget. Y'all thought I was going to forget that I wasn't going to do a little tip check, huh? Y'all thought wrong. Before I get into y'all for that weak-ass ensemble with me that y'all just did, I'm reminding the audience to like, subscribe, follow, and all that good stuff. And I love the conversation. Comment, man. You know what I'm saying? We're here for the smoke because today, woo, everybody's about to get hit. You heard? And speaking of hits, we got hits on the store. You heard the BLC merch, man, shirts and all that good stuff. And we got some new designs. I am so excited about the new designs. So definitely check that out. But other than that, man, like I said, I got all my people.
With
me.
Okay, we getting there. Jay, look, you thought I wasn't going to try again? I've known Jay for 20 plus years, my nigga. It's like, niggas be forgetting. But anyways, you know what I'm saying? Speaking of my peoples, you know what I mean? Got my girl S&M in the building.
Man, ain't on the same floor, huh?
What's up, S&M?
So you know what? I am happy to be here to talk about some of these topics tonight. But you know, something that's been bothering me all week, or at least for the past 2 days, is this stupid ass black fatigue that has been on the internet because once again, some folks, white, have decided to co-opt a term that was meant for something completely different and use it to make it derogatory and negative towards black people. So for those who have not educated themselves, please be aware that black fatigue was actually coined by Mary Frances Winters, and it's a book that talks about how racism erodes the mind, body, and spirit of black people. It's not all this, black fatigue is because we're tired of black folks being ratchet, because not all black folks are ratchet. And so for the Sambos out there, please, before you go and repeat these white supremacist ass talking points, know some of your own goddamn history. This is why they put things in books, because they recognize some folks just won't read a book. Knowledge is power.
Talk to him. S&M with your non-reading self. Just take a look. It's in a book.
Facts.
The Reading Rainbow. I know that shit, though. Okay,
Hell
fine.
yes.
Look, don't take my word for it.
I can't do anything. TMB, what's happening, love? Good to see you.
What's happening? Hey, I'm happy to be back for another week. Really excited to jump into all these topics. There's so many. I'm like, I don't know how we're going to get through it in one episode, but I'm ready to kind of, do a little smack and punch against the ropes tonight. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you said smack and punch. What'd you say? I didn't get those
little
words. What'd
smack and punch, left taps.
Smack and punch. Okay. I think some of the audience members might actually like that type of action. And if I remember correctly, the DMs may be open. You heard? I got
Some
you, girl.
days.
You know what I'm saying?
Some days.
You know what I'm saying? But my man, Just Jay is in the building. Not Just. Why is it Just Jay? I feel like you're playing yourself a little, chill, right? Is it Just Jay? I feel like there's so much more to Jay with the shades on. What's happening, brother?
I mean, it's a lot to me. It's layers. You know what I'm saying? I am the original. You know what I'm talking about? So first, it's always metacognition with me. It's layers of being, right? So there's Just Jay because my name is Justin. But I got tired of people calling me Justin. So I just call me Jay. And they would be like J-A-Y. I'm like, nah, bro, just Jay. So we got Justin and Jay, and it's just Jay. Levels to this. So the way I broke that down, right? Yeah, thank you. Some people might have called that mansplaining. And they wouldn't have flagged it immediately, right? Because it was one guy talking to another guy, right? But what it really was, and I find this interesting because it kind of triggered something. I was looking at a post and somebody was talking about how one of the highest expressions of masculinity is to teach. And I'm like, yo, that makes sense to me because I'm like a math and science educator or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm always teaching and stuff. So that's why I'm here, I think, because I like to teach. And I'm expressing my masculinity. So if I offend anybody tonight, please forgive me. I mean it in the deepest love, in the greatest sense. And if you didn't see that post, I'll DM me. I'll send it. But when you see the shades, it means I'm going to be shady. Just deal with it.
Oh, we are ready for Shady J. I don't even know if that sounds pause-worthy, but fuck it, pause. Delvin, the expert, is in the building. Nowadays, you got to pause everything just to be, careful, right? But Delvin, what's happening, man?
Man, what's good? What's good, man? We back for another week. I know there's black fatigue, but this week we are going to have a lot of legal fatigue, man. There's a lot of things on the docket. I wore my good court shirt today, so I will be delving the legal expert this week. So we got a lot of things to cover. We got to make sure everybody's got their legal papers taken care of. I did check all the dockets for today's episode. None of you have been indicted. You're safe. So this is another week of my pod mates not being in any federal crime. So give yourselves a round of applause.
Yes, we will. And you know what?
We have to check this every week.
Listen,
Every
this show,
week.
I feel like this show is so fire that we should be charged with something. Like low key, the BLC Pod might catch a RICO if we keep this shit going.
This is kind of a racket, yes.
Yeah, I mean, coming together purposefully, for the commission of greatness. You know what I mean? Yeah. But listen, I just want to say a couple of things real quickly. Number one, shout out to all the moms. Mother's Day was just like right around the corner. You know what I mean? And speaking of Mother's Day, Jaden Daniels' mom chimed in on the pivot. You know what I'm saying? And this 20-second clip I'm about to play, watch what she says real quick. We'll come right back.
I want Jaden to date. I don't want everybody to say I'm putting it on record. My son can date. He can live freely, makes his own decisions. However, the relationship we have, he does value my opinion because, when my kids were little, I did a lot for them. And my kids saw that. My father, my background, I worked too hard to allow anybody at any moment to come in and just, take it away.
So yeah, the cool thing about her, she's such a sweet woman, but she told on herself in that clip, right? All the eyes in their eye. So, I mean, listen, I appreciate all moms, but some of y'all moms need to slow down now because she was telling on herself. Just watch the eye stares, like what she won't allow. You dig what I'm saying? So it just kind of confirmed what I was saying from before. I like being right. You dig what I'm saying? I really do. And before we start the show, and this is the Law and Disorder episode of the BLC Pod, this didn't quite make it in the rundown, but around Mother's Day, I heard that Iman Shumpert's lawyers had filed some type of motion in the courts to basically have Tiana Taylor thrown in jail. You know what I'm saying? Because apparently they're saying that she violated their agreement in the divorce. And because she somehow disclosed some things, he thought it was a good idea to try to throw his baby moms, his former wife, his ex-wife, into jail for 20 days or some bullshit like that. For some bullshit about how he lost money or whatever, right? Around Mother's Day, man. So listen, we got to call out some bullshit. If I'm the judge, I'm throwing shit the fuck out. Just on some G-code shit, nigga. Like, come on, bro. We've already talked about how down bad he be looking, but this is a next level of down bad when you are so down bad that you want to put the mother of your two children, Tiana Taylor, miss minding her own goddamn business. He felt some type of way that her back might have been getting blown out by Aaron, Mufasa, whatever the nigga's name is. That is some non-P shit. The B word that I want to use, I'm not going to use out of respect. And plus, I don't know the nigga. And he's 6'7". Listen, I don't want no smoke. I just got to call a thing a thing. But with that being said, welcome to episode 6, the Law and Disorder episode of the BLC Spot. That was the sound effects from Law and Order for those people who missed it back home. But with that being said, on the docket, this young lady at the age of 26, thought it was a good idea to sue her ex-husband. Why? Because when she met him at 20, married him at 21, he promised her some things. He said, hey, girl, we're going to take it to the moon. We're going to take it to the stars. You dig? Beyonce voice. And she fell for it, right? And she's saying, oh my God, he let me down. He wasted my prime years from 21 to 26. He is taking her to court. She is taking him to court because she is saying he wasted my prime years. What are y'all thoughts about this? I thought it was a fascinating way to utilize the court system. Do y'all think she got a case or is she a head case? What are y'all thoughts? Anybody? Okay, y'all excited.
I try to be nice. I try to be nice. Every episode, I start out talking. I'm like, man, I need to just sit back. But okay, I'll do it. Y'all want me to do it? I'll do it.
Jay, get
Come
in
on,
there.
Yeah, thank you. So here's the thing.
Pause.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Ooh, I'm completely thrown out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you just bring me in again? And then we'll pause.
You just keep missing these alley-oops over here. I'm like, what is going on?
Can you bring me in again?
You were saying,
sir. Let me pass it to Tia. I can do it without pausing. Pass it. Go take the start.
What? Wait.
He needed a woman in.
I did. I needed a woman in the
middle.
Doesn't make sense.
Okay, so
throw that shit out of court. Throw it out. Throw it out. She's ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous. Be accountable, little girl. Like, you wasted a prime time of your life with a man who wasn't ready to give you whatever he promised you. Like, false promises are a thing. Walking around trying to throw it in court is a waste of people's times. And it's like sucker behavior. Like, learn from it, grow from it, do better. But don't take that shit to court. Like, who does that?
It's America. Yeah. You can sue for everything, right? I mean, you can sue if you gorilla glue your hands to your forehead. You know what I'm saying? You can sue for everything. So I understand that she felt some type of way and she went to court. I think, though, that the person, I'm not going to give law advice. Let me just say, I think everybody could point fingers if they wanted to point fingers, even if they wanted to point fingers at somebody for pointing fingers at them in the first place. Let me make that make sense. It was her responsibility. He came to her with an idea and a dream. Okay. He came to her and he was like, yo, I think I'm gonna do this. And she was like, yeah, I believe that, baby. Let's do that. Okay. All right. And they set off on this path. Okay. It didn't work out. But now how do they have this dream with no roadmap, no points in between? Like, hey, first we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do that. Because if they had that, then she would have known before it was 7 years that it wasn't happening. First point. Second point, if I invest in a stock, okay, and I do not sell that stock, I hold on with the hopium because I know it's going to go up, right? And I hold on. Meanwhile, there's another stock that I could have bought this morning, and it did not rise. It's running. Okay, but I hold on because I'm down now. I'm out. I'm trying to hold in. My point here is I don't get to sue the stock for not performing in the way I thought it would perform, just because now I feel like I missed out on another opportunity that I saw going another way. You don't get to do that. Like Tia said, take your L, put it with a lesson, let it be your blessing, and push on.
I am clearly landing on the opposite side of this because you know what? I say kudos to you, girl, because we hear in the internet all the time now and social media and so forth. Apparently, you already a leftover woman because you over the age of 25. So hell yeah, he wasted your youth. And on top of that, if he's supposed to provide all these promises and so forth, he sold you on his dream, he sold you on his potential, and then his potential didn't manifest. Congratulations for getting the hell up out that relationship before you end up being a bitter Black woman and getting that tag along with the fact that they're already saying you out to pasture just because you're over 25. So I think it's about time that men start taking accountability for their lies and their lack of fulfilling their potential. And so if he didn't go the path that he said he was going to go, then I say go for it. Try it. Now, I will say this, though. You did choose him. But it's okay. It's okay. Ignore all the fact that you chose him because you chose him for potential. And so what you learned was stop choosing niggas for potential. That's what you learned. And on top of that, you know what else you learned? You learned that you probably ain't going to win this lawsuit. But if you can get him for alienation of infection, there's a possibility because in places like North Carolina, there has been cases where folks have been winning on alienation of infection. However, that's not what you're going for. So I don't know. But I say give it a try because people have sued for less. Folks burned themselves with some coffee that clearly was hot and had the hot warning on it and they still burnt themselves. So folks burn, that's why pillowcases have warnings too, don't swallow the stuffings. So anyways, good luck and kudos for thinking outside the box.
I just want to push back.
Y'all wrong. You didn't think far enough outside the box. She is not going to win. What would she have been doing in those ensuing years from 21 to 26? Random peen hookah and hot Cheetos. Is that really a missed, and Takis, is that really a missed opportunity?
Yes.
I mean, because that's basically what we're suing for. Okay, Tia said yes, and I appreciate her honesty. Shout out to her for that. But I think this is also an opportunity on his part. He should countersue for missing out on his city boy years and all of the random vagina he could have got. That is an L. That's a loss. That is a time that can never be get back. He should countersue her. My man, Think Big, Delvin the Expert, Esquire, we're tacking that on for this legal episode. I am here and I'm available every other Tuesday.
You know what's funny? I must not be in that firm because I'm siding with my good sis S&M on this one. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all completely missed the premise of why she is taking him to court in the first place, right? Regardless of whether or not she wins, what she is saying is the nigga made a contract, low key, verbal or otherwise, that he's going to do X, Y, and Z. I think she mentioned something like owning a house, having some kids, et cetera, right? So if Shorty entered into that arrangement, right? Because part of marriage is a business. So it's not like they both didn't make some level of commitment to one another. Now, if his countersuit is that Shorty wasn't doing her part, yeah, I'm here for that. I want to hear that too, right? Because he can make that case. But if she is saying, hey, man, I got to move on because based off of what we talked about, you were not doing what you wasn't living up to your end of the contract. I think just from a conversation standpoint, in terms of people who do make contracts with others or make promises, and when you break them. Now, here's the key though. Can she show damages? For example, if she's putting her funds together and maybe he mismanaged them, or maybe if he was doing some shit salaciously under the pillow, without people knowing or whatever, without her knowing, he could prove that, hey, yes, I trusted him to handle our funds, but he was diverting them and using them a certain type of way. So again, she still would have to show some level of damages in regards to the claims that she is making. But part of what she's saying is, and I get S&M sarcasm a little bit, but she's partially true though, right? Like low key, people be stealing shit from people, but sometimes the worst theft is time. At the end of the day, you dig what I'm saying? So yes, maybe she won't win this particular case, but I would kind of admonish my brothers to chill on the promising some bullshit, because you don't got to do that for real, for real. You know what I'm saying? You don't got to sit out there and lie to her and come up with this bullshit, right? Nah, because she's going to give you what you want for real, for the most part, with little to minimum effort. So the fact that you're going that extra mile to wife it and not feel like you should live up to the responsibilities that you yourself actually said, hey, I'm willing to because you proposed in the first place, then yeah, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? She does have a case, if not a case, maybe a point, depending on what she's talking about and what she can outline in regards to what she felt like she lost out on by fucking with this nigga in the first fucking place. You did what I'm saying? So yes, I feel you, S&M. You know what I mean? And don't y'all women out there say, nigga, I gave you one. You did what that's what you not gonna do. All right, episode 6, clearly I'm saying the sister got a case, even though she's delusional for even filing it in the first place, but I'm not knocking her because I think she has a point, if not a case. But go ahead, S&M.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Whoop, 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 whoop.
You know,
because she does
score one
got
for
a
the good
point.
guy.
Yes. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I had an urge to say kick rocks, rest of y'all, but that's being childish. But you know what? Who else is being childish, but maybe not so much, because he's claiming someone has been keeping his child away. That would be DDG. But that's not why he's on our docket today. He's on our docket because he also recently received a restraining order on Live and pertaining to his baby mama, Halle Bailey. And so just to give some backdrop, apparently back in January or so forth, they got into a altercation where he allegedly slammed her face into the steering wheel, chipped her tooth. She got bruises and whatnot. And it was a whole debacle. And so he received this restraining order. And next thing you know, he's like, oh, these are all lies. But technically, she had the pictures and she also had the chipped tooth. And she also had a lot of other stuff to show. And in some cases, in some states, it's actually pretty hard to get a restraining order without the pictures. You can get a temporary restraining order just by saying, I fear for my life. But to get a restraining order that actually lasts some time, you normally got to have some type of proof. But anyways, I would love to get your thoughts on this whole DDG and Halle Bailey restraining order situation.
Halle Bailey.
Okay.
Halle Bailey.
Go ahead.
I don't know why.
She like a little B.
But anyway.
I do it too. Don't feel
isn't
bad.
she like Beyonce's protege or something? Like, anyway, that's beside the point. So listen, I'm going to take the unpopular take up front. Okay, just hate me now. Of course, I am loath, okay, to say anything untoward about who the public has already decided is the victim in this situation. And I am not saying that DDG is anybody's victim. What I am saying is I don't think that just because we have pictures, it means that we have evidence, because evidence proves the fact. Okay. And what we have is evidence that something happened, but we don't have evidence of what happened. For instance, what if a man's riding in a car with a woman and she's being loud and boisterous and she's driving or whatever, and maybe she might be driving erratic, or she's talking to him crazy, she's calling him all kinds of things, maybe she's spitting or whatever, she's doing whatever. He's sitting on the side and past the seat trying to be cool. At some point, he's like, yo, let me out. Let me out. Let me out. She's like, nah. Let me out. Let me out. No. So he does something to make the car stop. Maybe he throws it in park. Oh, boom. Her face hits the steering wheel, right? He's like, now it's a whole different problem now because now she's injured. He doesn't got the car. They go on and do some other stuff. Those pictures could explain a different story. And the reason why I get this story, right? Because I did some research. And I did some research, not tabloid research. I didn't go read what people said about her. I watched some videos of what she said about herself. And what she said about herself was that she liked drama. She liked to be in it. She liked to watch it. She had a smart mouth. She liked to argue. She go to war with anybody. She do all that. She rah in your face. She said she was a jealous girlfriend. She said she was a territorial girlfriend. She was an in your face kind of girlfriend. Now, it's amazing that someone that's self-aware hooks up with DDG. You mean you get a man with a short fuse and you know you Byron? Come on. Then I mean, I don't know. I'm saying, again, fingers are pointing, and I think there's a lot of blame to go around. I'll pass. Go ahead, y'all.
Wow. This must be the week of Negro gaslighting. I have never heard such bullshit. What? The pictures are not evidence enough of something happening? That is crazy. Court cases are literally one evidence on pictures. Like, what are you talking about? She chipped her tooth because she accidentally. Nah, that's not what happened. I was gonna say before all of that, though, that DDG had one of the most gaslighting experiences just by every time all of this was going on in the background. She was very silent for the last 6 months. He would go online, she's keeping my baby from me. I can't, somebody tell hello, like all this drama-filled shit in order to kind of gain some clout. And maybe he knew it was coming because he was such a dog to her. He probably knew that maybe at some point he had to kind of build an audience, I guess. But then to hear all the things that were happening in the background, that while he was going and pleading, she was showing texts that corresponded with the timelines that said they had already talked about it and made arrangements, and he knew the baby wasn't going to be there. Like, regular people get gaslit in private, and that's already harsh enough. But to think about, she was gaslit for 6 or 7 months before she said something, and on top of the abuse she endured, like that girl did not chip her tooth on the steering wheel. However she chipped it, right? This man has some culpability in it because he was given a restraining order. Now he got his mama on live talking about not my son. He doesn't do these things. And now he needs all the defense lawyers, I guess, he can get, including Judge Jay and his mama, because something happened, right? The boy did something. I don't want to hear all that it might not be type shit. Like, we have to get off that.
You know what? I just had some, Devin, I'm going to let you jump in. I just want to have some pushback for Jay. I would like to note the fact that you said that you went and looked her stuff, her history, versus going to look at his history, which included abuse accusations from Ruby Rose, who he also dated. And so I just want to point out that automatically you went to the alleged victim in this case to justify another so-called alleged victim.
Let me counter.
Go ahead, Devin.
Excuse me. Let me counter your pushback, please. Thank you. And I would counter with this. I would counter that I'm not saying that he doesn't have a history. In fact, I mentioned his history. I said she should have known his history. What I'm saying is she had a mindset and a level of self-awareness that in that sphere, we all could have moved better. That is what I'm saying. I'm not blaming the victim. I'm not blaming this person, that person. What I am saying is I didn't have to go look at her story or I didn't have to go look up DDG. I knew Tia would come. I knew you would come. I knew there were going to be a line of people standing up to throw stones at him already. They would come with all the dirt, stuff that I don't even know if it's true, but they're going to throw it. So I don't have to go do that. I need to see what the side of the conversations that nobody is saying, like the side that nobody is hearing because the whole crowd is yelling over on this side. So that's what I was doing. I yield my time.
Sir, no, that's some more gaslighting as well, because they've actually been coming down on her more so than him, based on the fact that she did say that she was toxic and she liked drama. So they've been coming down on her, and that's why his mama on live, that's why his brother on live, who also has a history of alleged abuse. But I'm going to go ahead and yield the floor because I did say that I was going to get to Devin, unless you want to push back on that pushback of your pushback. Okay,
I'm here
Devin.
for the pushback.
Oh, no.
Let's keep this going.
She just said she basically proved my point. She basically said there's another side of people who are like, hey, girl, you might be part of the problem. And so, yes, he is a problem. But all I'm saying is in the greater scope between these people, because we don't really know these people. There's a lot of would-bes, right? But in the greater scope, if you are self-aware, right, don't go get the thing that is most likely to put you in an explosive situation. Like, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying be a better picker, right? If you know yourself better. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I got you, sir. You going back on the default line of choose better. I got you, sir. Go ahead, Delvin.
Yeah, I mean, the point that's being missed, especially with the restraining order, none of this shit is going to matter. You know why? Because she isn't going anywhere. She got this restraining order, and then a month from now, they're going to be on the live smiling together. We back together, and we all got fucking played. That's exactly what's going to happen. She's where she wants to be. She likes the toxic stuff. If the relationship was calm and settled, and nobody teeth wasn't getting chipped and black eyes or whatever other weird shit is going on, she would be bored. And then we'd be talking about her cheating or doing whatever it is she's doing. So she's exactly where she wants to be. I don't feel sorry for either one of them. They deserve each other.
Yes. So S&M, did you use your time to go back and forth with Jay?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say I used my time. Just going to add this one little point, though. Then Lord have mercy, not Devin saying that she like it violent. That's the way I interpret everything. He was like, yeah, some women like it violent. Go ahead and smack that bitch. But like it. But you know, there might be. I know
like
maybe
beat on.
you know what I'm saying? She might.
The victim blaming is high in this
I'm just
group
going to
today.
leave it at that, because if I say anything else, we might go over our time on a quick take. So, Nick, I'm going to yield the floor to you, sir.
So, it's funny. Y'all use this term gaslight, but I feel like in using it, y'all gaslight people in doing that, right? Like if a person is legitimately saying, hey, this is my position, this is how I really feel, I'm trying to provide some real context, and you're saying I'm gaslighting, meaning that what I'm saying is not a real thing, I must be crazy. That by definition is a definition of gaslighting, right? So it's interesting that y'all throw that around. We're gonna all be on fire if y'all keep on talking. With that being said, right, the other thing I realize, part of what I do is I'm like a judge, you know what I'm saying? And Duffy, you was out of order before, because once S&M said her thing and made the objection, Jay had to respond, and then the judge decides if it's sustained. You jumped the shark. It's all good.
Sustained too soon. It's a premature sustaining.
I had to listen to both sides and decide if it's sustained or if it can move on or not. So that didn't happen. So this is the thing that y'all, speaking of the court part, right? Because I feel like all y'all miss this. Y'all get caught up in these emotional arguments, and that's what the Halle Baileys of the world want y'all to do, right? Because at the heart of this, what this is about is a petition to the court. Right? If there was violence in a certain type of way, we saw what happened to Chris Brown when he put his hands on a particular pop star. So if there's violence going on over there, then take that nigga to jail, call the fucking police, and move like that, because that's the type of action that he would deserve in regards to being a fucking abuser. Okay, so miss me until that happens, then hey, kudos, right? That's where the accountability lies if what she is saying is true. I am not saying that to say what she is saying is true. I'm saying for me as the viewer, there's not much I can do about it, because the only evidence that I have is what's been presented. And what's been presented is her account of what occurred for a petition, part of which included that she wants to be able to have custody when she goes out to do her film somewhere else. And I guess based off of their custody arrangement, maybe that's outside the purview of that. So that's part of it. And for people who've gone through this before, unfortunately or fortunately, shit gets a little toxic. People throw all kinds of shit in the wall to see what sticks, because they have a larger goal, which is, hey, either custody or money or some type of benefit when it comes to dealing with the court system. Guys do it and women do it all the fucking time. Okay, so for me, I don't give a fuck either way, because I don't know these people. Do I give a fuck about whether somebody's abusing someone? Absolutely. But I also give a fuck about women who weaponize the system in order to get unfair advantages towards men, because that happens too. It may not be to the position or to the numbers that y'all care about, but if there's guys that y'all know who go through the system getting fucked by women who know how to utilize the system, I can't get mad that some sensible niggas are like, you know what? Before I pass judgment, I want to make sure that we see the other side, because Shorty has been moving a certain type of way, which speaks to what Jay is talking about. And finally, when we talk about evidence, Jay painted a really crazy picture. I get that. But the truth is that when you take a picture of something, hey, my face looks a certain type of way, you don't know what caused that to happen, right? So it's easy to spin a story, particularly if you're a person who is also volatile. to a certain extent, right? In terms of how you choose to move. Sometimes people just might be trying to protect themselves and things can happen. So just pictures alone is not evidence of DDG abusing her. Like Jay was saying, it is evidence that something occurred. And so, yes, people use these things to weaponize to get their way. I don't know any of these people, but because I don't know any of them, I'm suspicious of both of them. Therefore, believing the possible worst for both of them, while also trying to give some of them some level of grace. So therefore, for the other side, real quick, before we move the fuck on, because y'all be losing the forest for the trees sometimes, right? If this was a criminal case and we got a bunch of them coming up, this right here is a civil complaint filed in regards to two people who seem to be toxic as fuck, who are throwing shit at each other and using themselves and the court system to manipulate some toxic further fucking relationship. I ain't saying it's Chris Rock or Christian or whatever the fuck that shorty's name, and Blueface, I ain't saying it's that, but it's giving, okay? So, the judge has rendered his decision. Both of y'all asses, get the fuck out of my goddamn courtroom and figure this shit out before y'all maybe put both of y'all bitches in jail for wasting my goddamn time, okay? Moving right along. Next on the docket, okay? Tory Lanez? Yeah. Apparently, Tory Lanez stabbed, poked up 14 times while he was in the pen.
Pause.
Right? Now, how did he get in the pen? By now, we already know. He was fucking around with Meg's drunk ass, and unfortunately, shit didn't work out for him, even though low-key he had a plea and would have maybe done less time. But listen, that's a different story for a different day. But Tory's locked up, right? Making hits, making songs or whatnot, and apparently somebody ordered a hit on him, at least that's what the street is saying, right, when he got stabbed 14 times. So long story less long, Tory got stabbed 14 times, right? But apparently, because the official people said he got stabbed, he got moved to a facility. His Instagram page said he got stabbed 14 times, had a collapsed lung, was able to get the fluid out there, and now he's breathing. He's fucking Tupac for real, right? And so aside from that, the day after he got stabbed, his lawyers was like, hey man, we got more evidence to prove Tory was telling the truth the entire time. Apparently a driver for Kelsey overheard her talking to the husband about how things happened. Apparently Kelsey pulled out the gun, started shooting a couple times. Tory being like the Superman, like, no, don't do it. Lunged at her arm, moved the gun a little bit, shot 2 more times as it was falling, right? And so is it a coincidence? Is it the Rockefeller and them? Not Rockefeller. Is it not Rockefeller? Jay-Z and is it Jay-Z? Yeah, Jay-Z and them, who basically ordered the hit because they didn't want to reveal the truth about Meg, their superstar, all this other conspiracy shit going on. What do y'all think? Tory Lanez, the new Tupac, or no, that's not the topic, I'm sorry. Do you believe he was stabbed 14 times and no, that's not the topic. How do y'all feel about this new evidence? I'm trying to make sure I'm getting this right, reading and talking at the same time. Does this make you believe Tory more, right? The coincidence of the stabbing and new evidence. How do y'all feel about the Tory Lanez case that just won't end for some reason?
I'll go ahead and jump into this one really quickly then. So I would say this. I find it interesting. So first, if he got stabbed all the many times and he survived, then kudos to you, sir, for being a survivor. You got a whole theme song just dedicated to you. I'm a survivor. Okay, I see. I can't sing. I don't have that confidence like that. But anyways, with that being said, so kudos to him for surviving. But there's some other conspiracy theories. You mentioned a lot of them, Nick, but another one was that this was a publicity stunt so that he can draw attention to the fact that his lawyers want to say, hey, we got new evidence. Because supposedly he's up and talking already again, even though his lungs, and they said both lungs had collapsed. So if both lungs collapsed, how the hell you got breath enough to talk? How the hell you off a ventilator already, only within 24, 48 hours if both lungs collapse? So there's other conspiracies that are going around pertaining to this, largely saying that this was a publicity stunt to lead to them opening up his case, or so that his lawyers could say, he got stabbed this many times, but guess what? New evidence has come out and blah, 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 blah. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just like, damn, Megan, you just can't catch a break. First, you like 6 feet tall, fucking a midget. And now this midget keep coming at. He's like the gift that keeps giving. And I'm sorry. I just wish you can catch a break. I don't know what's going to happen in this case. I don't know if it's truth or lies or whatever the case. But we do know, as Jay said previously, something happened. Something happened to your big toe. Something happened that he ended up in jail for. right? And so we know that there's something there. Now it's rather Kelsey, so maybe Kelsey should be in jail with Torey. I don't know what the case. Both people had their hands on the guns according to this news story, and that's how both, two more shots went off. And I think that Megan is actually getting the kind of a bad deal on this, because she originally didn't want to testify in the first place, nor was she the one who brought the charges. The state brought the charges, but everybody disregard that. And also, another reason why I think she's kind of getting the bad deal on this, she's still the victim. Her big toe was the one that got shot. She could have been walking around here with her equilibrium all toe up, because now she got, what's it called when your balance be off and stuff? I don't know. Was it vitiligo? Yeah, there it is. And I'm just like, come on, folks. Yeah, I was trying to think of, I knew it started with a V.
Vitiligo was crazy.
I was trying to think of what it was. It was coming to me. But so thank you for that. So
Vertigo.
I just think that whatever the case, yes. So I think whatever the case may be, I hope that the truth comes out, and whatever that truth may be, either exonerates or put Kelsey right there with him. Or, or at some point, I just think that folks need to stop hating on Megan. That's what I'm saying.
I was with you. I was right with you. You like, folks need to stop hating on Megan. And then, and I'm not for hating on nobody, okay? Because hate is a waste of your energy. There's a lot more to this story. Like, for instance, that Torey dated both Kelsey and Megan at some point, right? Like the fact that if you watch their documentaries, if you watch the Right 3 on Tubi, but no, if you watch documentaries, you'll see that this idea that's being floated by his defense, it could have some legs. It really, really could. And to that end, and I'll wrap it up at this point, because I'm not going to get into bashing and hating. I will say, though, I think, I guess I'll say a little more. So I think Megan brought it on herself, and that's onefold and twofold. Onefold, she brought it on herself if the story that started to go, the story that made the state file charges, that story wasn't 100% true, then she plays some part in that. Now, she may have been, who knows, influenced, whatever, for whatever reason. But that. Secondly, if she chose, there was a talk in the media, nothing was really known. And then Torey starts doing his songs, and he talking, and then she get mad, I guess, or whatever, and she responds, and then now it's blown, and then things snowball. And which is one of the reasons why I think his parents felt like they were being persecuted media-wise or industry-wise or whatever. And I use the word persecuted because this may explain why he had the miraculous resurrection. His family is church people. You know what I'm saying? They church going folks, for real. Like, you know what I mean? They was like singing and praying in front of this, like, for real. They legit. Like, they just shouting on Sunday, trying to clap in church people music. So what I'm saying is they believe in miracles. Miracles happen every day. And maybe Tory Lanez had his miracle. Maybe he's got another one coming. Maybe he's got a miracle coming in court. I'll pass.
I think I want to let it go. I wish we can just get over this whole Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion thing. Like, every time Tory comes into the media again, Meg Thee Stallion is getting drugged again for something that she was a victim of. Tory, Dan's Jenkins, is exactly where he needs to be, and that is in jail. Unfortunately, it seems like karma has caught up to him and gave him a few things to think about while he's in the hospital. Now, I don't wish bad on anybody, but I wish that his incident in jail didn't impact her so much, because I think she would agree with me in saying that she wished that we'd all just let it go. It's like, we're tired of it. Did she do it or did he not?
Yeah, I mean, this has been going on for a while. It's starting to wear out its welcome. Hopefully they can figure it out and then, move on. It is a miracle if he had 2 collapsed lungs and he's up and walking around and breathing. I am not a medical expert, so that may be possible. So don't come for me in the comments, right? But at the worst, this is going to be a great album. This is going to come out, and this is going to be his 50 Cent I Was Shot 9 times. He's going to, I don't know how you mix that into album, I was stabbed 14 times, allegedly, because they are saying he was allegedly stabbed 14 times. I don't know how you don't definitively know somebody was stabbed 14 times, but that seems pretty, open and shut, whether you were stabbed 14 times or not, but whatever. The timing is a little uncanny with the new evidence, and his dad is asking Governor Newsom to let him out of prison and to bring him home. So it's a lot of pieces going on here, but worst case scenario, he's got a hot album coming out off of the I've Been Stabbed 14 Times. And hopefully somebody's working on a hot track for that.
Facts. That's it. Do you want to go? Or did you want me to go?
I opened it up.
Oh, you did? Oh, my bad. So, I was sitting here as a man realizing, because I think I heard what Tia said. And, sometimes as men, sometimes we come on these platforms and it might come across a certain type of way. So I don't want to be the guy who just piles on, right? Because sometimes you do have to look at it from Megan's perspective, right? Like, she was just out partying with her homegirl, you know what I'm saying? And the nigga she was fucking at the time, they, just having a good time. Maybe she didn't know that her homegirl was fucking the nigga that she was fucking. You know what I mean? And you got liquor involved, young people. And yeah, you guys are right. She was a victim. You know what I'm saying? And she got shot, but like not really like shot like in a Tupac kind of way, but I don't know like if it was fragments or exactly what happened. But she certainly did have injuries, which is not to be taken lightly. You know what I'm saying? And then since then, who knows where her mental has been, right? And all the things she had to deal with that situation. And then, she's still trying to resume her career. So, since then she's gotten the deal with Popeyes opening up stores, continue to go about her life. So I get that, our sympathy should be with her being the victim. But the thing that I wonder though, because this is where I think the crux of the story is that what if Torey didn't shoot her, right? Because two things can be true at the same time. Like she could be a victim and the wrong person is paying a crazy price in a situation that was unfortunate for everyone involved. The new evidence that the brother was talking about was supposedly the sister was talking about how she did what she did. There's a lot of people who believe that Torey did not in fact shoot her like that, the way that it's been portrayed. You know what I'm saying? And if there's any hint of truth to that, right? Then how could I at the same time have empathy for the victim who then victimized somebody else? Right? Like I think because I don't know what happened, I think the problem with this case and this problem, the reason why it remains in the news is because you have people on both sides, and I guess people already made their choices. But a good judge, I think, tries to sit back and look at the situation as fairly as possible, right? At least in terms of the judge of public opinion. And so I can say that, yes, she suffered something unfortunate, but it would be really unfortunate that if her friend was the one who's responsible for those injuries. And so the friend gets to go loose and brag about it and do their thing. While the brother, yes, he's done a lot of things and he was really fucked up in a lot of ways, but does he deserve to get 10 years in prison for it? Like, just stop for a second and imagine. Again, I don't know, right? Because we can always empathize with the victim here, right? So if he's in fact in jail, like a lot of Black men sometimes are, who are innocent of the crimes that they've been convicted of, can you imagine being in jail knowing you didn't do it? Yes, you played your hands wrong. And so I get it. You got to pay a penalty. But while you're in jail, you get stabbed too. So is it okay for me to have empathy for him as a victim, not only of a stabbing, but potentially a victim of an injustice, right? Or does for some people the injustice only relate to when she is the victim in this case? So I get it. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of reasons why people are impassioned. But I think in this case, if two things were true, meaning that yes, she was a victim and yes, Torey is a victim, the difference is that she would have played a role in victimizing him when he did not do that to her, right? In fact, there's any truth and merit to the fact that he was not the one responsible, because for whatever reason, and I'll land with this, I find it interesting, especially amongst women, that somehow y'all can't imagine that if her friend was fucking the same nigga that she was fucking, and there was alcohol involved, and oh, this little short playboy ass nigga was about to fuck Kylie too in front of me. Oh, this disrespectful ass little nigga that I let be around me, right? Y'all can't imagine that the homegirl who is jealous of her friend's success and how she's able to move, there's no way that Kelsey could have done it. So if y'all in y'all Black women's minds know how some of y'all trifling Black women move, y'all can't even give the nigga a little bit of grace, like the grace up to his height worth or the grace of the foot or the pinky that he shot. Y'all can't give him that little bit of grace. I mean, because for me, I start off by saying I can understand how she was victimized. You know what I'm saying? And I can. I'm just simply saying, can y'all understand if he too was in fact victimized? And if it were to come out that he was telling the truth, I would love to see y'all reaction then. But go ahead, S&M.
So for the record, I would like to note that I said I did hope the truth come out. So he did get that little bitty of grace right then and there. I don't know if it was his height worth, but he did at least get a pinky toe worth. Yeah, so.
Touche. Ashe. Okay. Go ahead.
So, in this week, as we continue the law and disorder, there is a major case that has been all over the news and the media and on the front pages of every online story from CNN to MSNBC to everywhere, to include now here at the BLC Pod. And that would be Sean Diddy Combs. Let's talk about it. Now, as you know, he did make an appearance previously when this first broke and he ran away and was looking like he was in some exotic location. And we was like, well, let's just wait and see what happens. But I don't know, we all was like that. So let me just go ahead and do a real quick recap. And I don't want to miss anything. So here you go. So currently, let me read this properly. Sean Diddy Combs is currently on trial in New York, facing serious federal charges, including sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transporting individuals for prostitution. Dun, 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 dun. And that's that law and order part, right? So anyways, so the
Not
trial,
quite, but I see what you're trying to do there. I mean,
I
we
was
make
trying to
space.
bring it back to
We
dun, dun,
listen and we don't
dun,
judge.
you know? So I'm trying to make it spicy because this is a serious topic for us and we still want to keep it light. And so with that being said, the trial started this week on May 12th and is expected to last for several weeks because it is a lot of juicy information that has been coming out with the star witness of Cassie Ventura. And I will just say this. Largely is pertaining to the freak-offs. And I'm just interested in hearing your opinions as far as to where we are now. Now, I could recap some of the more revealing moments, such as the need to urinate everywhere to include in her mouth. Or I could recap other moments where she broke down in tears because of the psychological and emotional mental abuse and that conversation or that video that they discussed in the hotel. So she's on day 2 of testifying right now. Or I could talk about how her husband sat there and listened through most of this and how his sons walked out on the first day. But I'm not going to talk about any of that unless you guys would like me to. Otherwise, I would like to open the floor to hear your opinions on what I like to call P-Gate at this point.
I'm going to let one of the fellas go first. Come on
Okay,
now.
that's true. There ain't going to be nothing left when I'm done with them. If if you want me to get them. Yeah.
Go ahead then, Jay. Pause. I mean, all the way. It's not going to be anything left when I am done with him. Do you stand on that?
Them. Remember, I'm a poly guy. Them. I'm from the South. It's the abbreviation. Yes.
Oh, so you're part of the freak-offs too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Go ahead.
So he got
as a spokesperson.
Which brings me to my point, right? So, I think there's a lot happening here, right? I think that somebody wanted Diddy humbled, right? Otherwise, why are we hearing about baby oil? I think that somebody wanted Diddy humbled, and they took what looks so far and what's being presented is a domestic violence, possibly domestic violence case that, yeah, or whatever. Like if you take the video of the video footage from the hotel, definitely domestic abuse or SA or something. I don't know. Y'all know what I'm saying. Edit it, whatever. So my point here is that he says it's that first, and then somehow it's turned into a RICO case because supposedly sex workers were brought over, and the sex workers, were flown in, and then they had sex, right? And that's against the law, right? But now here's my point with this. If someone else is involved and they say it's consensual, then the situation changes. For instance, if the sex worker gets on the stand and he goes, "Hey, she told me to do this to her. She liked it when I did this. She was leading this thing. She was in charge." Then it becomes a he said, she said, and it changes because now it moves in a different area. For instance, you hear a man was choking his girlfriend, and then you find out she likes to be, eroto asphyxiated or whatever, then that's her thing. You know what I mean? She likes to be choked. So he's not abusing her. He's actually giving her what she wants. Now, if he chokes her too hard or in the wrong place, that's a problem. But my point here is that it's really all about context. And I say this about context because I'm trying to make a larger point. And my larger point of context is, as far as the Cassie and Diddy thing goes, if they want to have sex with somebody that they think is attractive, who happens to be a sex worker, and they bring that sex worker over to hang out with them. The sex worker she just hanging out, she at the pool. They know what she does for a living, but she ain't coming to work. She just kicking it. But they decide they like her. She's cool. Now they want to have sex with her. She can't have sex because now it's against the law. They got to fly her back. Isn't that breaking the law again if they fly her back so they can have sex, try to have it legally? I mean, because really, initially, when they decided to have sex in this place where they brought her to, they were just vibing off of who she was, right? I say she because, I can't imagine. My point here is that if Michael Jordan, I'm going to use one more analogy, and I'm going to stop there. Michael Jordan, great basketball player, yeah, right? Professional NBA player. If he goes and does a pickup game on Saturday at a court or whatever, right? It does not mean that he's working professionally, even though that's his profession, even though he's a professional basketball player. Every time he dribbles, it is not for work. So how are you going to take a person who is a sex worker and take every time they have sex and say it's sex for money? Of course, they had to bring the person over there and they had to get them someplace to stay. I've done it for people who weren't workers and we kicked it. I've taken people on trips and we kicked it. They weren't workers. They weren't working for me, right? And maybe we had a vibe, maybe we didn't. That's none of y'all business. Y'all so nosy. Y'all see my point though? Well, y'all, what I'm saying, you see my point. My point here is that it's how you read it. Okay. And I said it, I'm gonna bring it all the way around again. It's a domestic situation that someone has turned into a RICO case by trying to tie in trafficking sex workers across lines for prostitution. However, if the sex worker is a real human being, which I think they probably are, they are allowed to move from place to place and have sex when they get there. I think they probably are. So there's a lot more there that could needs to be proven before I think you can say it's a wrap for Mr. Combs. Y'all can go ahead, man. That's my point.
Before anybody else go, I'm just going to add some additional context to this and state that there are now more than 100 individuals who are involved in this, who are claiming allegations between 1990 to 2023 of rape, drug-facilitated sexual assault, and sexual harassment. And then he has an additional 70 sexual assault lawsuits that are currently pending and has been filed against them, just to add that additional context for you.
Objection. I refuse. On what? So are these things that are being brought up in the case right now? Because yes, he may have civil lawsuits. Are those civil lawsuits being brought up in his federal case right now is what I'm asking.
So no, the lawsuits are not, but the individual who are involved are expected to be witnesses in this particular case, but with Cassie leading the charge for the most part.
Say that they have more witnesses, but to bring up the fact that there are other things like lawsuits that are not within the realm of the criminal proceedings that Mr. Combs is facing, I'm saying is irrelevant and should be stricken from the record.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Did you want?
I will.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Can I sustain that?
I will
want to sustain that.
I would say respectfully withdrawn and resubmitted for evidence is the fact that there are more than 100 other witnesses that they plan to call in this case. But otherwise, the rest of the information, I respectfully withdraw.
Well said, Counselor. Go ahead, Delvin.
Yeah, no, Jay stole all my thunder. Yeah, a lot of this is it's the salaciousness of it that I think gets people going, and they bring up, oh, this is a swingers and the baby oil and all that stuff. What makes this look really, really bad is Cassie's super pregnant right now. So you've got a pregnant woman, testifying about all of this, wild debauchery, hedonism, stuff that was going on, right? And so it's almost like it's Diddy's lawyer's worst nightmare. It's like there's a doomsday scenario for them, right? So if they can get past this, right? If they can get past the pregnant and the sympathetic figure, which I don't see how they do that, but it's a he said, she said. And once it gets into, and hopefully we do hear all the other people that are testifying, because I think it's going to be an aggregate of all the people testifying and kind of painting a picture together and of what's going on at the freak-offs. And like Jay said, once it gets into things not being consensual in the, I guess the spiking the Ciroc, spiking the baby oil, super weird. Once you start getting into the non-consensual stuff, that's when I think he's cooked then. And as far as the flying people, I did read some things that there are some people that were allegedly underage. That's going to be a problem. And if there's anybody there that was underage, that's how they're going to nail them. If nothing else sticks, that's where they're going to get them. That's what I would do. That would be my Al Capone tax evasion moment.
So I want to ask Tia a question, because after the first two gentlemen spoke, I want to know, do you want me to speak first, or would you like to go in? Because I feel like you had some things to say. I'm going to give you the choice of how this next portion goes. Oh, wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting that necessarily. So maybe you caught me off guard, or did you? Because here's the thing, man. Diddy is guiltier than a motherfucker. He is guilty for all of these charges, all of them. Because listen, I'm not a lawyer, right? But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express once, right? And, I do watch a lot of episodes of Law and Order. And if you've noticed in this episode, I've done a good job of being fair and impartial. So let me tell you why he's guilty as fuck, right? Because what the feds did was take elements of different things and then wove together a story that is completely plausible, right? When you have coercion, right? When you're paying people to do certain things, when you have people who are willing to say I was coerced, when you have the video that's out, what they're saying is that if it was just a normal freak off where niggas just flying bitches around, cool. But that's not what some people are saying, right? The question becomes whether or not those people are credible. Then the additive is, hey, you know what? You have an enterprise. You're a bad boy, you're a mogul. And so you're using your power in this enterprise, whether it's checks that's being cut or whatever, further this illegal thing that you're doing. I was listening to another podcast and they reminded me that in Georgia, they ran a RICO on a teachers union. The teachers, I guess, apparently at the time was cheating a little bit. They were fudging up the scores, I guess, in some way to make themselves look better than what their performance of the students were, right? And Georgia, they charged them with a RICO, cheating, an exam. You understand? Because it met certain things. Now, there's a whole different argument of whether or not the feds or the state should be using these statutes that were originally supposed to be for mafia. But when you write law, right, into law, it doesn't say just for mafia on the law. It says, do you meet these various statutes? And if you do, and it meets that standard, we can bring forth this case. So I just want to say to all my brothers out there, I hear y'all in the case that y'all are making in regards to minimizing this to just being a domestic violence situation. But I'm telling you that in your limited scope, it looks a certain type of way, right? Because in the dynamics of a powerful Sean Puffy Combs dealing with a 21-year-old woman at the time, any reasonable person can say that yes, there could be a power imbalance and dynamic. And even if she agreed in the beginning to all of the freak-offs, if there was a point where she decided it was freak off the freak offs or freak on or whatever the appropriate opposite of freak off is, right? She can make that choice. And when she makes that choice, if he continues to use the things that he has over her, like videos, right? Like money, right? She is now being coerced to stay in the relationship, right? And then if he's taking her to places and doing things and compensating her, right? Like her life, etc. What I'm saying is they got a case, right? So for y'all to think that this is just a glorified version of DV, S&M was right because they got more witnesses, right? So when she says my friend was being dangled outside the window or the 17th floor, that's coercive. I don't want to dangle from 17 floors either. You know what I'm saying? Right? The fuck? Maybe I was cool with it before the dangle. I was like, oh, you want to grab this semen from this nigga who just put it on me and rub it on your nipples? Yes, daddy. Right? Cool. But the dangle? It was a bit too far. The nigga was cool. He wasn't even trying to fuck for real. He's scared of you for real, dog. Like, now you got me out here. Can't even have guy friends because you want to be a bitch-ass nigga dangling kid. Excuse me, the gentleman from the goddamn 17th floor. Right? Now, here's the twist, though. And this is where, being the impartial juror that I am, I'm going to give my brother some credit. Because here's where I think the prosecution fucked up. There's a lot of shit going on here, fam. Even if I think legit they got a case, even if I think they can prove the case, I think the possible reason why Puffy will get off is because there's a lot of shit going on here. And it's not just regular shit, it's salacious shit. Right? If I wanted to pay attention to the evidence, how do I get past the urinating in the mouth thing? Like, how do I get past the rubbing the semen? Because for regular folk, we don't do that type of shit. So if you're watching it, if you're hearing about it, sure, there's evidence, but these are human beings, right? Who's going to look at this shit and be like, whoa, there's a lot going on here. And that confusion is going to make it harder for them, in my humble, non-legal opinion, for them to draw the conclusion that the prosecution wants them to draw because there's a lot going on. They're underestimating the salaciousness of this case. Like OJ was salacious to a certain extent because obviously it was murder, but in this case, you got sex, both sex freak off. That's why most of the things you've heard about has been about, you guessed it, the sex, except for the video, right? So
Right.
all I'm just saying, like, listen, for me, I don't know all the details. I know there's other people who are way up on this case, but if you think this is a cakewalk, I hate to break it to you, it's not. If you think it's just a amplified DV, it's not. I'm not even saying whether I think he's guilty of the charges necessarily. I'm just saying if you go back and read the statutes and what racketeering looks like and what the feds can actually do and what sex trafficking looks like by statute and how people look at it, they can draw those conclusions and have a credible case. The only question becomes whether or not the jury can see past all the sex and baby oil, right? Which is what Puffy's people is hoping, right? But we'll see. If I had to bet, and I'll land with this, because I'm pretty good. You know what I'm saying? When I do the Third and Short, the sports show that we do every Monday, shameless plug, my predictions are right. Not because I look at the evidence, but I understand human beings and human nature enough to recognize that people are simple. And they should have kept this case simple. So if I had to make a bet on it, he's probably going to get off or something reduced just because people are simple. But if you're asking me, my non-legal expertise, guilty, mucho guilty. All charges. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
I want to just sit here and take a moment of silence because sing an old Negro spiritual, like deep down in my soul, because we agree today. Look at us, shining, being big. I see you. I just want to add on a couple of more things because you really just took everything I was going to say and made it. About the sex workers, let's just be mindful that prostitution is still illegal, right? And then you have people who are still very much so saying, he paid me $6,000 to come out here and do these things. So it's very evident that he was paying people. And then the sex workers are saying they could tell that she wasn't into it. She's talking about sores in her mouth. She's talking about all the other things that regular vanilla people think are so far-fetched and out of the box that I agree with Nick when he says that it's going to kind of confuse people. But I also think that just the peeing in the mouth and the rubbing semen on the body alone is enough for regular vanilla people to say, oh, that's some weird shit and he's guilty, right? They're going to attribute it to something so far out of the scope of what normality is that that's going to likely be the linchpin in it. I agree. 100 witnesses, all these things. It's a lot going on. But let's be very clear. I pulled up the definition of RICO so we can understand, right? Racketeer, influence, and corrupt organizations. It's a variety of crimes, at least 2 predicate crimes committed within a 10-year time frame. The feds did not just start building this last year. This is not something that was just created in the last 8 months that we've been privy to it. And so it's important to know that 10 years of evidence has to be compiled before they come into this, and that Cassie is a component. Because I want us to take a minute and stop and think. In Puffy's case is a little bit different. It kind of refutes my point. But most victims don't gain anything by misidentifying or identifying the wrong person or an innocent person. Statistically, people who are victims of sexual assault, statistically, only 20 to 30% actually report, right? And so when we think about all these women who have been victimized and why they didn't come forward, because most of us don't. Because you know why? It's niggas around the world who don't believe us, who are in the comments and the chats calling her hoes and saying she was complicit, and they really don't have common sense enough to know what Stockholm Syndrome is, how people literally become victims and develop coping strategies in order to be able to function and live. I can't say no. He's going to beat my ass. I'm going to suck this dick and drink this pee, I guess. I don't know. But in the sense of saying that she felt she couldn't escape, we saw that on the video when he drug her back by her hair. So to say all that, I think it shows a lot about, what our mindset is about protecting women. And I also think that it shows the men out there who are creeps, and we should just be more vigilant and aware of who's saying what while all this is happening. That's just my 2 cents.
I want to correct something only because I got into an argument with someone about this, right? Because of the length of the investigation. I maintain that this was not one of those lengthy federal investigations that lasted for years. No, right? From my understanding, it started and is obviously revolving around Cassie first. Once the details of her lawsuit became public, and in addition to the gentleman, I think the gay fella, or excuse me, the whatever fella who kind of talked about some of the things, that was the impetus that I think the Southern District, New York, used to form this case. So it's not like they've been sitting on Puffy for 10 years. Now, whether or not they can prove that crimes were committed within the past 10 years, absolutely. But it's not like the feds have been sitting there sitting on Puffy for 10 years. That was an argument I got with someone and was willing to bet $15,000 on. Sorry for the callback. Maybe not the most appropriate one. You weren't here, Tia, so everybody knows what I'm talking about, but that was the callback. It was a $15,000 bet that I'm still waiting on my money on. But the point is,
I
the feds have
disagree.
not been digging
They
into
knew
the
that he
background
blew up
that
Kid
far.
Coodie's car.
Okay.
I don't think that Cassie is the nucleus of this either. I think Kim Porter was. Hold on a
Everybody
second.
knew that.
If
That was
Kim
rumors
Porter's
that was
book had
around.
came out
It
to
wasn't
light,
like
it was said to have been exposing of everybody and everything, including Cassie and Puffy and all the other people involved. The reason why she happened to end up dead before the release of the book, coincidence? Who knows, right? But Al B. Sure has come out and said that he was intimidating other people, hanging off of balconies. If we're talking about a pattern of behavior, it's been established. People just didn't have enough money to fight the case. The man was paying off the bellhop at the
I'm not
hotel for the
knocking that.
video. Like, this level of intimidation is so high.
I'm not knocking that. No, listen, just to be clear, I'm not knocking that. I'm just pushing back on the idea that the federal prosecutors have been trying to put a case against Puffy together prior to this, and that is not the case, right? And you can see that evidenced by these star witnesses, the two people who are in part of the predicate to the felony that you're talking about, right? Cassie and the unidentified woman, by definition of this RICO, are the predicates of this, right? And my point is, they became that once they were aware of what he did, then the video came out. So I'm just making it clear because I literally got into an argument with someone in regards to this point because you're like, no, they've been investigating him for 17. If you don't touch them, but go ahead, somebody else before I say something.
Yeah, I was ready to say, let's go ahead and move past that.
I'm triggered us in there. You saw that?
Let me ask this question. So, so my question is, the general consensus in the public though seems to put a lot of blame on Cassie. And so I'm interested in hearing if she deserves the level of blame that she's getting for staying in the relationship, or if she's complicit overall in the RICO case herself, and should she be a part of the case versus being classified as a victim.
So I want to say this to clarify something, because so when I spoke earlier, I was talking about the fact that if you look at law, sometimes it's not what we think a thing is. It's like how you read the statute. It's funny we referenced Tory Lanez. There was a lot of people thought that he was being charged with one thing, but when you go back and look at the actual charges, it was something completely different. Like I literally heard people who had talked about this case like, oh, Steph, I thought it was something else. Why? Because most of us don't understand legalese. So I'm just positing the fact that I do think the elements are there from what I've read, right? And I do think that it's possible that they have what they need to the case. Now, whether or not, and I also believe that there's just so much freak off going on that people, whatever. There was a piece of testimony, for example, right, where I think it was showing her early on in the relationship being open to certain things, right? And that's important because when you start to try to discern who's telling the truth, I guess to my point earlier, like at what point in time was it voluntary and did it change? Right? Because you then have to acknowledge at some point it was voluntary. If you try to make it seem like it was always coercive, then when a person gets caught either in a text message because it takes away from the narrative, then you have plausible, like people be like, well, wait a minute, you were now. So some of to your point, Tia, like people may not understand the nuances of Stockholm Syndrome, right? But to be fair, there are people who run to that though, even though they were willing participants. I remember Carisha maybe about a year ago, she was caught saying some shit when she was dealing with Diddy, right? Some girl had said something to her or whatever, and she took on this persona, right? Like, oh, I'm going to have my nigga have you eat my pussy type of shit, right? So if we saw that from her early on in the relationship, would we believe that that person who behaved that way all of a sudden is going to come back and claim victim? We wouldn't necessarily, right? Because we saw behavior that said, oh, you were with the fuck shit too early on in the situation, right? And so most people don't have the bandwidth to be like, oh, okay, because they feel like once you're in the muck, it is what it is. So you get what I'm saying? So that's why a lot of times in these cases, people will point because unfortunately, when you do make the accusation, your accuser and other people have the right to kind of look at you and say, hey, is there some validity here? And do you have some corroborating evidence? Right? So I get that it feels uncomfortable for women to be like, oh, automatically run to we got to protect women. But no, we got to protect the process a little bit, right? Because if somebody else is being accused, whether it's women, whether it's men, I'm saying that you don't have to, in trying to make sure the process is fair, it's just as a process doesn't mean you're trying to demean somebody in that process, right? To a certain extent. Because I think people generally are going to be curious about what a person's role was. Because all we had was the narrative, and now we're getting text messages. Now we're seeing other behavior. And I'll land by saying this. It reminded me of a Law and Order episode where a girl had got initially kidnapped, right? I mean, this is TV, but I thought this was interesting. She initially got kidnapped by a rogue dude. And then eventually they fell in love a little bit. And so she went from being a captive to being a participant in the situation. And ultimately she got convicted because it was discovered that yes, while the relationship started off in one way, that she was completely within her faculties and in fact joined in on the situation. So I think it's also fair to say that there are some people who can wonder at what point did she jump in? Did she jump back out? Right? Like, so there's a lot here to ask regular everyday people to weed through. So a lot of the times when I hear people responding to it, most of the time I feel like they were responding from our own vantage point and in part, maybe our own experiences, maybe some of our own triggers, right? And we try to project a little bit, but I'm just simply saying like, there's a lot here. And to just assume automatically that she has no culpability, to me, doesn't at least give the exercise of trying to see the truth for what it is any justice, because we're automatically excluding her and that creates a blind spot. And I just am not a blind spot topic.
If this thing is so layered, we could talk forever, but this is just what I'll say. Carisha was 36, 34, 35. Cassie was 18, looking for a record deal. The power dynamic going into the relationship is significantly different. Asking someone to be freaky with you because you're of age and you've had experience and blah, 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 then yes, this person has $1 million herself. You can't cajole her to do some of the things that you would cajole someone else because she comes in with power. She really doesn't need anything from you but you. But when you have someone who's 17 or 18 and they're coming in looking for a record deal and you buy them a house, you buy them a car, you put their parents up in a house. And then every time that person tells you no, you lock them out of their house. You take their shoes, you take their credit cards, right? You create the dynamic of power where a person can't any longer say no. And that is the difference between Cassie and Carisha. She was 18 looking for an opportunity and he used and leveraged everything against her. If you hear some of the commentary, she talks about, he would tell me if I didn't do something that my album would never come out. And he did that for like 7 years. Other producers would talk about them coming in and making music and him saying that it would never be released because it was something that he was holding over her head to keep her in line. The power is what changes that between Carisha and Cassie. So I agree with what you're saying. We can't look at every victim and say they're a victim without the evidence. I think everybody deserves due process. But we also have to talk about, like DDG and Halle talked about, having a pattern of behavior. Clearly he has a pattern of aggression and overreaching behavior. We saw that when he made them fools walk from one borough to the next for cheesecake. We knew something was wrong with him when he cursed Lorianne out about a messed up dance move on Making of the Band. We saw firsthand him be out of control and trigger happy with power. We knew when he had a little meme where he was like, I get whatever I want. Like, something is wrong. It's egotistical, it's maniacal, and it leads into issues when a person has money that they can use behind it.
It does the argument a disservice to bring up a clip from a TV show that clearly had great ratings. He didn't do anything illegal, that it was clearly performative. In a case that we're talking about that's criminal, all I'm saying is you kind of dilute it. If you're talking about he's on trial for being an asshole or being a mogul or whatever, the same thing you're talking about, we loved when it happened back then. Dylon, all that was part of television. That show was a fucking hit. So it's like when we add that to the conversation, I'm just saying we kind of watered it down a little bit. And just to push back on the point about Carisha, I wasn't trying to compare two women of different ages. I'm talking about the type of behavior where sometimes, right, people be into the fuck shit, right? And so, yes, you could say she was 21, but what happens when these groupies be coming out here trying to siphon off of niggas? Do we absolve people of all responsibility? I'm just saying in general, move it off of them. I'm talking about the behavior of, yes, the person's empowered, but how many people are constantly on their dicks trying to get something from them? How many? Do none of those people accept no responsibility for their part that they play? You get it at all? Right? And then the other thing about it is that kills me is y'all be assuming stuff. Did you know her at that age? Did you know how she was moving? If I remember correctly, she was already fucking with Ryan Leslie, who wasn't a fucking teeny bopper either. Right? She was a model. Right? Again, I'm not trying to make whatever. I'm saying that y'all be trying to paint every person to be the same. There are some Benjamin Button motherfuckers out here moving. I'm not saying that's her. I'm saying until we get more information, until we know more, we automatically assume stuff, right? Just because we can resonate with the fact that she's a young woman. Yes, there's a power imbalance, part of which she also took part in before he put a fucking finger on her. Before he turned into anything, at some point, was he just taking it from jump? Because if that's what y'all telling me, then we're absolving all responsibility of everything? and then we want to throw it and everything? Oh, you made a nigga get some cheesecake. I wish the prosecution wouldn't mention that bullshit.
It matters. It matters. It lends to the credibility of who he is, his integrity, his humanity. It matters.
It lends to him being a good businessman. It lends to him being a performative performer. The nigga who was dancing on stage, every step I take, you don't think that's what he does?
All in your video.
Come on, man.
These people that were present came out and talked about it. They talked about it in documentaries within the last 2 or 3 years. It has been, I'm not speaking just hearsay. This is what people have said they experienced while they're on set. It was a reality TV show, unscripted.
I'm not knocking that.
The nigga's guilty, yes, but he's a weirdo too.
I'm not knocking that, but this is a criminal case. I'm just pushing back on the fact that when we bring in other stuff, I get it, puffy as fuck, but this is a criminal case. And I think that what you're doing is kind of what like the prosecutors are doing, which is why I think they're going to lose. Because if you don't stay focused and you start bringing up too much shit, which is what I said before, you're going to confuse people. That's what I'm saying. Like when you start bringing up other irrelevant things, it keeps the laser-like focus to what he actually did and why it resonates with the charges. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead, man. Jay? Y'all want to defend yourselves?
I was going to say Devin's off mic. And let's remember the question on the floor was actually about Cassie and her culpability in the situation. And if she does have culpability, because a lot of people are actually blaming Cassie for being in this situation herself.
But S&M, you're a sensible. I feel like the fellas have been talking a lot on this one. At least I have for sure. And TM was like, I want to hear the fellas, okay? So what do you think, S&M, as a woman, a sensible woman, right? A woman who has moved a particular type of way, even when she was once upon. Didn't you get married at 21, if I remember correctly? I just want to make sure, right?
I did get married at 21.
Yeah, gotcha. So look at you making grown woman decisions at the age of 21.
I see what you're doing there. Doing there.
So did you just celebrate 26 years too? Like, girl, look at you being the model of making good choices at 21 in terms of how you chose to pair bond. Wow. Go ahead, S&M. What are your thoughts on this topic?
So first I want to just answer this last question pertaining to Cassie. I think Cassie started it off because she acknowledged that she did agree to it because initially he said that he enjoyed watching other people have sex with his women. And so she said she did it to make him happy. At some point that actually turned where it became, okay, I'm not comfortable with this. But she still wanted to make him happy because at this point, he started leveraging other things against her, but also she still wanted to be in the relationship with him. And so I believe the first time she said she tried to run or leave, apparently he beat her. Then later on, the security guards would chase after her and bring her back. And so it's this pattern of abuse where they talk about where even housekeepers were quitting because they saw the level of abuse towards hers. And so this is why I would say, while she may have participated in the beginning and may have done it for all the wrong reasons, i.e. I want to get my record out or because I love a person and somebody loving somebody is actually one of the main reasons why people do things. And so, but the minute that she was uncomfortable and said no, that's when it became assault. That's when it became abuse. And that's why, while she may have participated in the beginning, the minute she said that she no longer had culpability for what was happening, I'm actually more concerned about the power dynamics that was at play and why it's easier for us to shift the blame from him, her, versus recognizing that there is some power and accountability dynamics that we have a tendency to absolve men for in general when it comes to powerful men. Not everyday Joe Blow, right? Everyday Joe Blow is always, I ain't gonna lie, believe women even when sometimes the woman is lying, even if the cases of the woman lying tends to be a little bit lower than what people expect, but But the point is, because he's powerful, there seems to be some type of extra belief system built in place where they're like, well, she was a social climber or she knew what she was getting into because, but no one knows that they're getting into being sex trafficked. No one knows that they're getting into this lifeline of being abused. And no one knows the psychological torture and so forth that may come from this that made her feel like. That's why when people ask domestic violence folks, well, why didn't you leave? Well, it's a lot of things that goes into that's why you have the battered wife syndrome and so forth to explain why people didn't leave a situation. So I believe that Cassie went in with her eyes wide open. I believe that she went in because there's conversations that she actually played and teased Kim before Kim ended up mysteriously unalived. And so I believe that in the very beginning, she thought she was special. and it proved otherwise. And that's where it went wrong for her. But at the end of the day, the amount of shame that's going on Cassie versus on Diddy, I also believe that it's very telling of where we are in a society where it's always blame the victim versus where's his. And I want to say, even though we're saying blame the victim, the fact that he's on trial and people are trying to downplay it, including himself, because he did plead not guilty. He said everything was consensual and therefore it's just a monetary grab. But in her case, she already got the money. So what is she grabbing now? What is she aiming for now? And so oftentimes we talk about women and these sexual abuse cases, then we say, well, why didn't they, or like with the Shannon Sharp situation, right? With the OnlyFans chick, well, why didn't she file criminal charges, right? Well, he does have criminal charges. So why is it so hard to believe? And we got evidence. I'm not saying it's hard to believe, but why are we still putting the blame mostly on her when we just found out that they have hundreds of witnesses to this? And so I agree with Nick in this regard, though. I think there's so much salacious information here that there's a chance that they might lose. There may be a lot of people who might be like, you know what, this is just sex. All we heard was sex. Prove to me, even if you're saying illegal, prostitution was illegal, well, prostitution is also the oldest profession. And so you're saying it's illegal. They didn't care. That's why it's the oldest profession and it's the most profitable. If you look at it, sex sells. So there's a high chance if they don't start focusing on their actual racketeering and the coercion piece, then there's a big chance that they will lose this case if they keep keeping it to sex. Because ultimately, why are we not talking about the fact that he told Cassie if he see her with Kid Cudi allegedly, again, he gonna blow up Kid Cudi car, and next thing you know, Kid Cudi car was blown up. You know what I'm saying? So why don't we hear more about that type of stuff, which shows the power that he may have had, the control that he had in a situation that he leveraged his money. And now that's where it'll be. But I don't know. All this sex talk, and no matter how disgusted people are, I think if they keep focusing on, there's a large possibility it may not go the way they want it to go.
Darren, there was something you said I wanted to push so far back on. Oh my God. And I'm, man, because you kept throwing, because I think you was going to get, listen, man, this is what I was going to say just to throw the fellas a bone here. Like what you described was domestic, right? Like, yes, nobody's pushing that aside. That's where I think y'all getting confused. If you're just focusing on the domestic, that's where it becomes what they were saying is an overblown domestic case. Right? So nobody's knocking. We saw the video. Nobody could credibly say it's not a domestic case. But the question is, how does it tie into the RICO? Into racketeering, right? And again, it goes back to what I've been saying before. When y'all talk sometimes, y'all contribute to the case, just not working out in your direction because y'all bring up stuff that may or may not have relevancy. Part of the reason why you can just talk about the blown up car, where's the evidence of it? Because if there was evidence, wouldn't the police have charged them for blowing up a car? Blowing up a car is illegal.
Not if he was scared. Not if he was scared.
Illegal.
Not if he was scared.
It doesn't matter. Is he going to be on the stand to say that? What's going to be presented to the court, ma'am? We're talking about this RICO case. How did him doing that be a part of RICO? Exactly, specifically. And can you prove it? Or is it hearsay?
So it's hearsay, but what I'm saying is if they have the people who can speak to this, to the charges or the allegations that are being made, then that actually shows that he used power and money to intimidate people, which could also include intimidating her to stay in her position and her role. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, go ahead. I'm gonna let that slide, man. Go ahead, Jay.
I think what she's saying is that man, I wait so hard to get off mute. I forgot. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I know, right? Go ahead, Delvin, man.
Yeah, no. To what Nick was saying, it's hard to work past the piss and the baby oils. We got the domestic violence here, then we got the pee in the baby oil here, and somewhere down here is some racketeering and some trafficking and some other stuff. People, it's too much going on. People getting distracted, and that's what's gonna fall apart. Cassie is an integral part about this, and she can speak to a lot of this stuff. So I'm not blaming her. I think it probably at some point she was, hey, yeah, I'm down with this. Then it got weird and strange and rubbing other people's bodily fluids on it. Now that ain't fun no more. I get all of that. Puffy totally did all this. He's a weirdo. I've been knowing that for like 30 years. This ain't new. But all this other shit is distracting from the actual. Where's the racketeering? I mean, you beating your girl's ass. Where's the racket? That's what he's there for. We got to focus on that.
Yeah. And let's be clear, right? Even though I think the feds have a case that they can prove, I really do believe that they were motivated by this incident, what happened recently, and they found a way, because that's what lawyers can do, to find a way to get a case. So all the stuff that people been knew about Puffy, they've been heard, they've been new, but for whatever reason, after the whole Cassie thing came to light, they made a decision and they were able to make that case. So I'm sorry, S&M. She did have many, many years to report some of this. The reason why it came out the way that it did was because the state of New York allowed for people to file civilly for cases that otherwise would have been past the whatever the time, the statute of limitation, right? So let's talk about this. You also said the whole money piece. Well, just because her motivation could have been money, it wasn't up to her whether or not the feds took what she got rolling and decided to make their own thing out of it. That happens all the time, right? So yes, her motivation could have still been money. And then, yes, she got her money. But then guess what? The feds come calling. And guess what you gonna do? You gonna answer, right?
Justice.
And then do the best that you can to comply. It does not take away from the idea that initially she wanted her little 30 and rolled the fuck out. Because in truth, had she not filed, Puffy maybe been smarter about this and paid her off earlier, the likelihood is we would not be here right now. So miss me with these remixed arguments again. As a nigga who started off the show, I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret. Most of the time, I be having like my little opinions and stuff. And sometimes if I agree with y'all, I'm agreeing in my heart, right? And then I might try to find another way to turn up. But then sometimes y'all rock out and I'm like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? And then y'all force me to make it seem like I'm sitting here defending Puffy. No, I'm defending the
Because you
record
are.
and the conversation. If I point out the fact that, ma'am, you were wrong about the money thing because those are two separate things, I could point that out. Doesn't mean I'm defending Puffy. If I can point out that the feds did use this case to build this RICO, and so therefore it wasn't like they've always been on his ass, I could point that out. Just the facts doesn't mean I'm, supporting Puffy, right? And I'm also the same person that just said S&M, that when y'all throw most stuff in there, y'all dilute the shit. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what the human brain does? When you throw stuff out there, we pick to see where's the fallibility in that. That's kind of a natural thing sometimes. You know what I'm saying? If you throw something out there, you could have been talking about nuclear physics, the most important thing. Oh, what's that cat doing over there? But now you're looking at the cat. You forgot all about the nuclear shit because that's just how we have wired as human beings. These little cat moments happen to all of us sometimes, and y'all contribute to it by dangling this other yard in people's faces and then wonder why they can't keep up. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead, man. Like, I just got to call a thing a thing, y'all. But
my short response, I remember why I forgot it was so short. It was just that all that's really necessary is for somebody else to come forward. One person further on down the timeline who can say, Cassie told me she was not with the bull. If they can do that and they can show that wherever her mindset, what may or may not have been in the beginning, they can pick a time period where somebody can go, hey, she said she wasn't with it. And then I think they got enough for that case, for the RICO and for it all. But as long as until that other witness comes forward and can, if we're going to make the case on her mindset, on her, whether or not she had a desire to be there, whether it was Stockholm, whether it was whatever, because that's another thing. Okay. So I said it's going to be short. I know, man, but give me 2 seconds. All right. So isn't there usually a power dynamic when a man and a woman get together in traditional society? He has the house and the money and the car and all the stuff. Like, isn't that what people are looking for mostly? Like, I'm saying in the traditional story, it starts power imbalance. It is
not a provider of protector, Jay. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's interesting to me now that when we see a person who signed up for that in the beginning, they're like, hey, I have nothing. You have everything. Can I go with you? And dude's like, yeah, you can roll with me. And she started rolling along. And later on, she's like, I don't want to roll with you no more. And then they separate, which is good and fine. But what we should not be allowed to do, and I'm not saying she's doing this, but I'm just saying for anybody who's watching her and they're opportunists, what should not be allowed to do is start taking the revisionist pen of history and rewriting our motives, our narrative, and our mindset to reflect who we want to be now as opposed to who we were then. I'm not saying she's doing that. I'm not even saying she's to blame. What I am saying is it's a he said, she said until somebody further on in this timeline of this story between him and Cassie says, hey, I spoke with her and this does reflect her mind. This is da 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 da. Then I think it has some validity. I think they'll be able to run with it. That's what I was saying.
And I'll also say this too, so we can move on, because the next person we're about to talk about has been accused as well. And I think it's natural for human beings when a person is being accused, right? Especially if it's a famous person, we're curious. So with Puffy, I feel like a lot of people are like, yeah, he did some of the shit. But then it becomes, but we don't know about her. I think naturally now, just out of curiosity, people want to kind of match things up. So I do get the propensity a lot of times to make it, for it to come across a way. And I do also get that sometimes we look at things a certain type of way, the whole blame the victim mindset. But unfortunately, like, you get stories though that just provides credibility to have doubt. And so hopefully we'll find out more in these next, 8 weeks with this whole story. It's not going to go anywhere. We waited for this to happen and talk about it again. So we're going to wish everyone well. There's a lot of stuff that was disclosed. Wow, especially with people's families in the courtroom. So there are people who maybe didn't do anything who got to sit through and live through some of that. So we're going to wish and pray for everybody there. But speaking of someone who probably needs some prayer, because apparently Smokey Robinson's old ass is out here wilding, like on some Diddy shit. No, did he do it? I don't know. But apparently 4 women said, some of whom were housekeepers. Listen, man, it's been a tough day with some of these stories. So I'm going to get these jokes off somewhere, okay? But so please excuse us and get to the tag of the show. But the point is that 4 women who were working for Smokey said that Smokey smoked their boots, apparently, like without their consent. In terms of, they were working for him over the course, in some cases, like 12 up to like 2 decades, multiple decades. But they said that there were times when he was left alone with them, that he was taking it, you know what I'm saying? Like, without consent, and that he was leveraging apparently like their status, because they mentioned they were fearful of reprisal, which included something about immigration. So one can kind of surmise maybe that Maria wasn't feeling it from jump and kind of only stuck around because she didn't want to get deported. At least that's kind of how I was reading. That's not me saying that. That's what it said in the story, which is crazy because Smokey's like 1,000 years old. He just dropped the album not too long ago. I think a new album. And then before that, he was giving gasms out. So maybe he's not that old. But what are your thoughts in regards to Smokey and the Bandit? Because apparently his wife was in on it too, according to his lawsuit. You know what I'm saying? They were a tag team situation. Shout out to her for holding it down. She's a ride or die for real. But what are your thoughts in regards, if true, of course, in joking, what are your thoughts about Smokey cleaning up with the housekeepers, allegedly? That came so last minute. I still had to do it. I couldn't stop myself in mid-moment. But with that being said, so what do you guys' thought in regards to this very serious case in regards to Smokey Robinson's accusations and the 4 housekeepers?
I, for one, am sad. I'm very sad. I like Smokey. I've always liked, I thought Smokey was a cool dude, man. He was a player. He gave me some great jams. Now, at first, my first question when I heard this story, I was like, dang, at the same time, he was a player. But no, that's inappropriate. So, but it was over a period of time, which does lend some, does show maybe a pattern of behavior, which is definitely, a smoking gun, if you will. Let me put my shades on twice for this. So listen, if the story was that they were afraid that their immigration or the naturalization status was going to be a problem, and that's why they didn't come forward. But they picked Trump's second presidency to come out and say something. That alone, I throw it out. Throw it out, Your Honor. Throw it out. I'm off. Y'all go ahead. I land.
They might have their papers by now, Jay. It's been 20 years. She was like, oops, now I sure have my revenge.
In Peru, Trump don't care if you got papers. You don't care. It's anyway. No, ma'am. So I don't know. He's old now. And the guy, his attorney's like, hey, we got to charge this guy $50 million or $80 million to make sure this never happens again. Oh, I think he's 80 years old. I think the amount is $50 million. The numbers in my head, they got kind of jumbled. But you're going to, wait. First off, he's too old to harass anybody other than a pill bottle. And it's doing him more damage than he's doing it. So this is, I don't know. It's a money grab. Honestly, I think they're trying to leave the country and they want some money to go before they go. Like now, all these years, he's old now. How are you stopping him? His hips couldn't even do anyway. Okay. So, like I said, I put my shades on 2 times and I hush.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like to get involved in the elder abuse. I don't know if you've seen Smokey's latest show, man. It is really hard to watch. I mean, the hip movement is very disturbing, and I can't unsee it. That's why Jay got his shades on. Terrible. The waiting this long is very problematic. I don't know how you work past him being a sympathetic figure. He's 185 years old. I mean, he's 85, but still, hey, you know what? Coming after the elderly when they're 15 minutes away from dying. Can he take the money with him? No, I get that. But still, the guy's gonna be dead in 20 minutes. I mean, what's the point? I don't get it. It's, let him shuffle, let him rock his new. The hips only go like this far. You can't move too because throw a hip on stage and then you're not gonna get any money. So this is weird. Tia, what do you think?
Smoke Kelly's old ass needs to probably sit down somewhere. This has been going on for 20 years, so I'm assuming that when it started, maybe something was still working and operating as it normally would for him at that point. But I was interested to know that they waited so long. And of course, we talked about power dynamics all day. So maybe they didn't want to give up the money that they were getting in the moment, or there was some kind of contract that they were working under. I don't necessarily think it's a money grab. I do think that people wait till they're not as much as risk to be able to expose someone. So, I mean, one of the songs on his album was It Still Gets Hard. So can I say that I'm not, between the hip shaking and It Still Gets Hard, I'm not really surprised that Smokey is a nasty ass freak, right? Smokey needs to know how to keep his hands to himself. I was also a little thrown off by the wife being complicit. Like, she knew. I don't know if she was the one posing the threats, like go down the hallway and shut up. I don't know what was said. But the fact that she had a part in it and they were two old ass people is even more disgusting, because it's like, y'all 1:15, and this time, what are we both doing? And for both you guys to be hustling me and figuring out how to hunch on me is a little bit scary. So I'm hoping that the victims get some reprieve, whether it be monetarily or otherwise.
So I'm going to say that I was disappointed when I first heard this news, because I had a certain, image about Smokey. I still remember when he was the singing Cruising, and I was just like, all right, now, this the man that wrote almost every song that was played at the aunties' weddings and so forth, at every family reunion, you got at least one of his songs being played. And then to hear that he was an old freak and perverted, and I won't even say perverted because I don't know what happened, and sex is sex depending on where you're at. But what I will say is this, is that it's concerning because people assume just because he's old, it doesn't mean he's not a predator, because young predators become old predators. They don't stop predating just because they old and their shit them wrinkled up and they don't got some damn big balls because they might got prostate cancer. I don't know. But they don't stop doing what they're doing just because they're old. As a matter of fact, old predators find other ways to victimize people because their nature is to be a predator. So if this is all true, because he's claiming that this is a money grab as well, and I will agree that they may have picked the wrong time to come out, but they probably figured he's old and fragile and won't fight the case any longer, and they probably figure they have nothing to lose because it is this current administration. They probably figure in the next 5 minutes they're going to be deported, but let them get some money on their way out the door. That could be the case, but I don't want to take away from the fact that I feel like this is another case of a rich, famous, and powerful person who got to go unchecked for years just because of their position. And with the wife being complicit, that also confirms that she may have felt like it was her duty to make sure he got some booty. She could have been choosing the people and not knowing, and they're not knowing that the reason why she's choosing them was because it was illegal, was because they're immigrant, knew they had something to lose, and that could be something that they could hold over their head. So if Smokey go down, she need to go down too. You know what I'm saying? And because I think that's disgusting when the women participate in this type of activity. And I think it speaks a lot to their character. So I'm going to wait to see what happens, because it is a civil case, because they didn't file criminally. We already got the reasons why they didn't file criminally. But I'm just like, come on, Smoke. Come on. You too old for this. And if you still over there, and I did see that last performance, and I was like, okay, Gramps. But the key word is Gramps. And matter of fact, you might be a great grandpa at this point. So great grandpa, it's okay. But anyway, let me go ahead and just close with this. I think that a lot of times when we talk about this type of stuff, the silence from the wife being complicit, the silence from the people in the house, to include the other housekeepers who may not even knew that they were all of them were being molested or raped or allegedly, also is a issue. The housekeepers, not the housekeepers, but like the drivers, the cooks, everybody who participated. I feel like this is like a enterprise. Like, it takes a lot of people to see and be silent. And it's usually because of money. People are silent because they're comfortable where they are. They're comfortable with the amount of money they're getting. And that could include these women who now feel that they have nothing left to lose because they too must be old if this happened 20 years ago or about 17 to 20 years ago. And over the past several to 20 years, matter of fact, they probably decided to sue him because they're like, damn, we don't want no more wrinkled dick. We tired. Let it go, sir. We tired. I could be wrong, though.
You know, I get it that oftentimes we talk about the timing, right? But the truth is they had to do it now. You know what I'm saying? The nigga gonna be dead tomorrow at 12. Okay. So it's like, it's either now or never, you know? And by the way, I should just give y'all a disclaimer because this late into the show, there is no way y'all expect me to be serious at this point and not be toxic. If y'all really wanted the deep dive breakdown, then hopefully y'all left before y'all got to my part because I am not here for none of that. At this point, we about to wrap this thing on out. I'm going to get these jokes off and we going to keep it moving. Back to the jokes, right? So, of course, they had to do it now because he's about to die tomorrow, okay? So, yes, I understand why they had to make those claims. That's number one. Number two, I get what the fellas are saying. His hips don't lie, right? Because based off of the lack of movement, how can he gyrate himself into position, right? But them hips weren't always those hips. And the fact that he is still trying to shake them lets you know he's still going off of muscle memory, okay? He's still, you know what I'm saying? And it's possible that he got his walker right there. He's like, hold on, bitch, I'm about to put my walker down. But all I'm saying is that sometimes do lie, right? Because it's possible that he did, in fact, do it. That's number two. Number three, okay, I'm going to tell you how I know he's still getting hard. Pause. You know, look at his hair. His hair is hard. He could probably fuck the chick with his fucking perm. It's like, damn, nigga, how much processed chemical? You see that shit? Like, that shit is standing up, and so is Smokey when it comes time for shit to get spooky, okay? We should change his name to Smokey Robinson at this point, right? Let me see. Yeah, I'm here all week, y'all. And lastly, like, listen, man, I get that y'all want to hate on the wife, but she's had a long and happy life, okay? What else is she supposed to do but hold her nigga down? Not to mention, she probably ain't got the same hips. Not to mention, she don't want to be out there using those lips. So, I mean, listen, I ain't trying to be funny, but it makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she's giving a new twist on The Help, but apparently she needed some ayudar, which is Spanish for to help, right? I wonder how many times Smokey was like, ayuda, ayuda. I'm sorry.
Are you saying he needed a medical alert bracelet?
No, I'm saying he needed Duolingo so he can learn how to speak Spanish. This is not an ad, but I actually am on my 122nd consistent day. That's how I know. Ayudar. That's what Smokey was saying. So all I'm saying is I get how this is tragic. We want to wish everyone well. I also do get that since one of them said that the last incident happened in 2024, there should be criminal charges, right? To be honest. I get when there's, statute of limitations, but come on, man, it happened last year. Did you not get evidence? Can you guys corroborate and make sure that you're, so I think that's the thing that people got to understand. When you have the opportunity for it to be criminal and it's not there, just by definition, people are going to question if there's enough evidence for even them to believe it, because damn, not even the police were willing to bring you to court in the first place. And you're asking us with less information and less evidence to make a difference. So naturally, people would have some inclination to be like, we don't know for sure because, well, damn, bitch, if you're telling the truth, then why the police ain't knocking on Smokey's door? It's not like he's going to go out there running. He ain't going to run nowhere. Nigga ain't got no good hips to be out there running. But with that being said, maybe we should go on this episode, Hips Don't Lie. You know what I'm saying? I'm just playing. But with that being said, let's get to these final thoughts, y'all. I think we've had too much fun. We've caused too much trouble, right? Let's start with Just Jay, man, just because you're on that side of the screen for me.
Man, listen, I'm just glad to be here, glad to be in the building. I'm going to make my closing arguments and wrap it up. Had a great time, but that goes without saying. So let me be clear, all right? Real relationships, actual real relationships, not that Hollywood stuff, whether it's romantic or platonic, they do not come with refund. What you invest in it should be what you get out of it, and it should be internal even before it's external. You should definitely get some education and a better understanding of self. But what you don't get refunds. You get receipts, but you don't get refunds. When I say receipts, you get patterns of behavior that you can pay attention to. Most importantly, your own first, people. Learn yourself, okay? I'm a chill dude. So it's okay that I married a woman from Philly. If you know from Philly, you already understand. So it's cool, right?
But if I was like boisterous and had a short temper or whatever, we'd be at it all the time. So here's what I'm saying. Know yourself. Know yourself. Know what's going to bring you into further balance. Maybe you don't need to broaden the balance, but maybe you need to know what will not throw you out of balance. And then pair up like that. And I want to see us love each other better. That's kind of where I'm landing. Had a good night tonight, though. Devin, what you got to say, man?
Man, I had a great time doing jury duty with my pod mates. I mean, we came to a sober, judicious conclusion on all of these cases. So we will probably be called again to do our civic duty, and I will gladly do it again with my fellow jurors. You know, I think at the end of the day, all of these relationships have power dynamics to one degree or another, and things can shift over the life of a relationship, and we have to acknowledge that and be clear on the fact that you can either be a victim or a volunteer. You can start off as a volunteer and transition into not victim or a place that you don't want to be in a relationship. And at that point, hopefully it's on you to decide, I'm going to remove myself from these relationships if whether they're toxic, abusive, unhealthy to whatever degree. When your relationship is no longer serving your needs, people, please leave these relationships. It'll be better for you in the long run. It'll be better for everybody. And you don't owe your abuser any more of your time. So as much as you love the other person, love yourself more and do right by yourself. I love you.
Aw, I'm just gonna go, aw, doody 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 doo. Okay. And so I'm gonna say that I honestly feel like just based on like the internet reaction to all of the cases that are currently pending, from Halle to Diddy to Smokey, I think folks really should be checking out my book, Black Women Need Love Too, a book about relationships, self-love, and community, because we are clearly lacking in this area so that we can understand how the hell we got to this point where we see the worst, especially in Black women. But let's be honest, we also see the worst in Black men. And so maybe we need to take a revisit of that. So in closing, I'm just going to say that the theme for me, besides law and disorder and having an opportunity to be on the jury, sometimes the prosecutor, I feel like sometimes the defendant, and myself sometimes, I don't know. But anyways.
I think you were a judge.
I was a little judgmental. I won't tell no lies there. I see no lies there. And so I think the biggest theme, though, to me is that public image is just that. Public. I think the private story always has a way of coming out eventually, because what we see in public does not necessarily equate to what we may see in private. And so as we continue to gather more information and see what's behind those closed doors, I think we got to stop confusing charisma and talent and even nostalgia, that's for Smokey, with character. You know, sometimes character can be hidden, the type of character could be hidden behind these things that we tend to value. And I think that just because some of the particular man in one case gave us slow jams doesn't mean he deserves to get a pass just because he gave us slow jams and he owed as hell. And so, but ultimately, I feel that the public image, to include our public image, who knows what goes behind our closed doors? You know, we not telling. And hopefully, as Devin pointed out at the beginning of the episode, none of us got cases. So with that being said, I love you guys. Thanks for participating today. Thanks for coming to, I'm going to call it the S&M Jones, Yes, You're Guilty as Hell show. And no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But for real, thank you guys for tuning into the BLC Pod. It's been a pleasure. Make sure you comment because we want all the smoke. Because we all gave our opinions today. We want all the smoke.
So listen, before I get into it, I want to remind the audience or tell the audience that we're going to be off for Memorial Day, right? Definitely want to let them know. So definitely go back and watch some of the old episodes of the BLC Pod because I'm sure y'all missed it. And there were some really great conversations to be had. So definitely tap in, but also enjoy yourself. Y'all go out there and be safe. The other thing I was going to say, though, too, is because that also happens to be my 20th anniversary, right? It is funny because I know we were talking about law and disorder in this episode, but as I was looking down the rundown, I realized what you were talking about, the 26-year-old woman, DDG and their relationship, Tory Lanez, what happened with, Meg, Diddy and his relationship, and Smokey. For me, I saw relationships there too, kind of. Unfortunately, maybe some that were hella dysfunctional, maybe some that were criminal, obviously some that were civilly liable, right? And that kind of reminds me of Clubhouse, where, happiness is a choice. Let me start there. I was talking to my wife about this, yesterday. Happiness is a choice. You know what I'm saying? And I think, people don't really grasp that concept. But in these last 20 years, or at least how I look at it today, we are happy because we choose to be. You know what I'm saying? And we put the work in the effort, to try to get here. And it wasn't flashy. It wasn't rich. It wasn't all that. It was just us. And so I'm just thankful that I don't find myself on the docket for real. You know what I'm saying? Because somewhere along the way, I think Lena, she was in her early 20s, and she chose to bet on me. And she's still with me. So apparently I'm not being sued. Maybe I did a good enough job. But baby, if you out there watching, before we get up out of here, I want you to know I love you. You know what I'm saying? I would not be the man that I am today. So would not be in the woman that you've been to me this entire time. You know what I'm saying? I legit believe that the Lord put you here specifically for me and I for you. And as we celebrate 20 years, I am thankful that we are not here in these streets, because I hear there's a lot of shit and piss out there. So good luck to the rest of y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like,
subscribe. Follow.
Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and all that good shit. I truly do wish for y'all, you know what I'm saying, a million years of success and happiness, but y'all gotta get at your own fucking way. Don't forget, we got the merch too. Tia had to leave, you know what I'm saying? Wooka putting up in all the wrong places. Hopefully she's not at Kid Cudi's crib. We'll see y'all the week after next. Next week. We'll see y'all in 2 weeks. Y'all be easy.
I think she overstepped her bounds.
Love you, baby. Vente.